Hello friends, this is Hatim Rampurawala, and in this video we will continue with our revision of essay 240. In the earlier video we had revised 3 sum, and now we'll continue with the 4th question. Okay, let's begin. You notice a misstatement resulting from the fraud. So we had noticed there is a misstatement or suspected fraud during the audit and conclude that it is not possible to continue the performance of an audit as a statutory auditor. How would you deal with this? So we had found out certain fraud or a suspected fraud. Because of that we are unable to, so it is for that, because of that we have concluded that it is not possible to continue the performance of the audit. So we cannot perform the audit basically because of that. So how the auditor should deal with that? Answer: auditors unable to complete the engagement. Essay 240, auditors responsibility in relation to the fraud in an audit of the financial statement deals with. So essay, first we have to write the essay number, essay name, and then this essay 240 deals with an auditor's responsibility in relation to the fraud while performing an audit. So it deals with what are the auditor's responsibility in relation to any fraud in the financial statement identified during the performance of an audit. Accordingly, if an auditor concludes that it is not possible to continue the performance of an audit as a result of the misstatement. So if in the question only they have stated that it is not possible for an auditor to continue, so what they have given is, if it is not possible to continue the performance of an audit as a result of misstatement resulting from the fraud or suspected fraud, the auditor should first consider the professional and the legal responsibility applicable in the circumstances, including whether there is any requirement for the auditor to report to a person or a person who made wait a second. Auditor should report to a person or the person who made the audit appointment, or in some cases the regulatory authority. So if he is unable to continue the audit, first what he should do is consider the professional legal responsibility applicable in the circumstances and report. Means considering all the legal and professional legal responsibilities, what he should do is report to the person or the person who have made the appointment. That is, we should report to the management or the owners, shareholders who have appointed us as an auditor, or in some cases we should report to the regulatory as well, that there are circumstances which is restricting the scope of an audit, which is restricting because of the certainty that there is a fraud or a suspected fraud. Then auditor should first is done that he should report basically to the person who made the audit appointment, or in some cases regulatory as well. Second, consider the possibility of withdrawing from the audit engagement. He should withdraw from the audit engagement if it is not possible to continue the audit engagement. Then if an auditor withdraws, what he should do is discuss with the appropriate level of the, if auditor withdraws, discuss with the appropriate level of the management and TCWG the auditor's withdrawal from the management and the reasons for the withdrawal. So if he withdraws, he should discuss this with the management and TCWG. He should discuss the reasons for such withdrawal, and also states the auditor shall withdraw from the engagement, and he should provide for and the reasons for such withdrawal he should also state with the management and TCWG. Then determine whether there is any professional or legal requirement to report, and also see if he has withdrawn. Now he is withdrawn from the audit engagement because he was unable to continue. So whether there is any professional or legal requirement to report to a person or a person who made the audit appointment, or in some cases to the regulatory authority as well, the auditor withdrawal from the engagement and the reason. So he should also report to the management or the person who have appointed him as an auditor or the regulatory authority that he has withdrawn from the engagement. He should communicate that he has withdrawn from the engagement and the reasons for such withdrawal. Further, as per section 140 subsection 2 of the Companies Act, the auditor who resigns from the company shall file within the period of 30 days from the date of his resignation the statement in form ADT 3 with the company and the registrar. So as per the Companies Act section 140 subsection 2, what it states that if an auditor withdraws, if an auditor resigns from the engagement, he should submit within 30 days from the date of resignation form ADT 3 with the company as well as the registrar. So auditor should submit form ADT 3 within 30 days of the resignation to the company as well as to the registrar. Then section 143.12, as I said, we should mention the reference of 143.12 as well, that if in case of any fraud involving fraud in the company by its officer or the employee, and if it amounts to more than 1 crore or more, then he should report to the CG. He should take the steps to report to CG. As per 143.12 of the Companies Act required that if an auditor of the company is in the course of performance of his duty, has the reasons to believe that auditor has the reasons to believe that an offence is of the fraud involving such an amount or an amount as may be prescribed is being committed in the employee or by its officer or the employee, the auditor shall report the matter to the central government. Simply they have stated that if he finds suspicions or if he has reasons to believe that the fraud has been committed in the company by its officer or the employee, auditor shall report the matter to central government. Simply he should report the matter to the central government within such a time and in such a manner as may be prescribed. For this purpose, Rule 13 prescribes the amount of 1 crore rupees or more. It has prescribed the amount it is not more than 1 crore, it is 1 crore or more. Okay, done. So it was much simple question. What they have just said that what they have asked is that what auditor should do if he had noticed misstatement in relation to audit. First, we should report to the authority who had made the audit appointment, or to the regulatory authority, or he should consider withdrawal. And if he is consider withdrawal, he should communicate to the TCWG management and reason for such withdrawal, and also he should communicate to those persons or the if there is any legal or professional requirement to do so, he should report to the person who has made the appointment and through the regulatory authority as well. What he should state to them is that he had withdrawn from the engagement because of such reasons, because of limitation of scope basically, and also state the reason for such withdrawal. And there is a Companies Act requirement that within 30 days he should file ADT 3 with the company, and within 30 days of the resignation he should file ADT 3 with the company as well as ROC. And as per 143, if 143.12, there is also a requirement that even though he is withdrawn but withdrawing, but 143.12 what it states that if an amount if there is a fraud by the in the company by its officer or the employee, then he should what he should do is report to the central government if the amount involved in the fraud is 1 crore rupees or more. So we are done with this answer. Much simple answer and small answer. Okay, now next question. The managing director of the company has committed a timing and leading fraud. So managing director has committed a timing and leading fraud. The amount involved has been, however, subsequently after the year end deposited in the company. So he has done timing and leading, that is basically he has withdrawn the fund used for the personal purpose, and then he had again deposited in the company after the year end. Deposited in the company basically. As a statutory auditor, how would you deal with this? Okay, so managing director, that is management level, there has been a fraud of timing and leading, and at the year and after the year end he had deposited subsequently after the year end he had deposited the amount in the company as well. Okay, fraud committed by the managing director. SA 240. First we should write the name of SA, number of SA, auditor's responsibility in relation to an audit of financial statement. These SA requires that an auditor's responsibility in auditor is responsible for obtaining reasonable assurance sorry auditor is what we can say, auditor is where we are requires that auditor is responsible for obtaining reasonable assurance that the financial statement as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether caused by error or fraud. The management is in the unique position to perpetuate the fraud because of the management ability to manipulate accounting records and prepare the fraudulent financial report by overriding the controls. So what they have given is, first they have given the objective that you should obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence that obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statement are free from material misstatement whether caused by error or fraud. Then management is in the unique position because the management has an ability to manipulate the account. So management actually can manipulate the accounting records and prepare the fraudulent financial reporting. This point we had seen earlier as well, that management can manipulate the accounting records and prepare the fraudulent financial reporting by overriding the controls. Then in the instance case, the managing director, because managing director can do this stemming and leading fraud, because he has control over the accounting record, over the preparation of the financial statement. So in the instance case, the managing director of the company has committed a fraud, committed a stemming and leading fraud. The fact that the amount have been subsequently deposited after the year, see what they have given is amount though it has been deposited after the year end, is not important, because the auditor is required to perform his responsibility as laid down in SA 240 as stated below. So even though it has been deposited, but it is the responsibility of an auditor to report the fact of this stemming and leading. Then that what is the auditor's responsibility? Because auditor is required to perform his responsibility as laid down in SA 240 even though it has been deposited. And what is the responsibility as stated below? First, consider the impact of the fraud on the financial statement and its disclosure in the audit report. First, what he should do this, because of this stemming and leading, what is the impact on the financial statement, what is the impact of this fraud on the financial, because at the end we are looking at what is the impact on the financial statement. So what is the impact of this fraud on the financial statement and its disclosure in the audit report? What he's been disclosing, what he has been stating his opinion in the audit report. So first, what is the impact on the financial statement and disclosure in the audit report? Second, communicate the matter to the chairman and the board of directors. Since the managing director has committed the fraud, he should prefer to communicate to the chairman as well as the director of the board of director of the company. Consider the reliability of an audit evidence previously obtained as a fraud has been conducted at a higher level of the management, which raises the genuine doubt about the representation of the management. So in performance of an audit, what he has done is obtain the written representation from the management. But now since he is of the knowledge that the managing director has committed a stemming and leading fraud, so it creates a doubts over the reliability of the written representation provided to the auditor while conducting an audit. See what they have given is, we will read it again. First, consider the reliability of the audit evidence previously obtained, which all audit evidence we had obtained from the management. We should consider whether now it raises a question that whether that documents would be reliable or not. Raises the question as the fraud has been conducted at a higher level of the management, which gives rise to a genuine doubt about the representation of the management. So we are clear. So what in the question basically they have given is they have committed a fraud, amount deposited. So while writing the answer, for first point we will write is that first we will write objective that he should obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statement are free from material misstatement whether caused by error or fraud. Second point we will write is management is in the unique position that he can and perpetuate the fraud, because the management ability to manipulate the accounting records, and because they can perpetuate the fraud because the management is in the position to manipulate the accounting record as well as prepare the financial fraudulent financial statement by overriding the control, because they are in the unique position to perpetuate, so they can commit a fraud basically. Then we had linked with the question that in this question that he has committed a stemming and leading fraud and subsequently deposited as well, but here the auditor's responsibility lies the same even if the amount has been deposited. What is the auditor's responsibility? First, they have given down below, we will revise without saying. First was wait a second, I have to see. Consider the impact of the fraud on the financial statement. Okay, what is the impact of that fraud on the financial statement and the disclosure in the audit report? Second, whether I am only not remembering. First, consider the effect on the fraud. Then consider the okay, I got to report to the chairman or the board of director. And in third point they have said that it raises the question of the reliability of the audit evidence obtained earlier, because the fraud has been committed. Because why it raises? Because the fraud has been committed at the higher level and at higher level of the management, and which raises the genuine question about the doubt of the representation of the management. And now as I said, write this point 100% sure in every fraud question. As per 143.12 of the Companies Act requires that if an auditor of the company is in the course of the performance of his duty as an auditor, now I am not explaining, just reading, going through the point. that as per 143(12) of the Companies Act requires that and if an auditor of the company in the course of the performance of his duty as an auditor has the reasons to believe that the offences of the fraud involving such an amount or amount as may be prescribed is being or has been committed in the company by its officer or the employee, the auditor shall report the matter to the central government within such a time in such a manner as may be prescribed. For this purpose, Rule 13 prescribes the amount of 1 crore rupees or more, and they would have given the given the clause 10 reference as well. Para 10 of CARO 2016 also requires the company to report the matter of any fraud by the company or any fraud on the company. See, in 143(12) they have given that fraud has been committed in the company by its officer or its employee. In clause 10 they have given whether the fraud has been committed by the company, so whether company has committed a fraud, or whether whether fraud has been committed against the company, on the company by its officer or the employee, but only it should be officer and employee, not the third party and has been committed and noticed or reported during that. So that fraud has been committed and reported during there, and if there is any fraud, the nature and the amount involved to be indicated. So in this case, this stemming and leading fraud has been done. So auditor should it is an auditor's responsibility to report in para 10 of clause of CARO 2016 that there has been fraud committed. If yes, then he should disclose the amount, and the nature and the amount of the amount involved is to be indicated. Then we will go move on to the next question. Auditor, as a statutory auditor, how would you deal with the following cases in the books of the accounts of, how would you deal? Okay, we are the statutory auditor. In the books of accounts of Mrs. OPQ Limited, huge differences were noticed between the control account and the subsidiary records. So we are the auditor of the holding company. This in the books of OPQ Limited, there have been huge differences have been noticed between the control account basically and the subsidiaries record. So there is a difference. Actually it should match, the figure should have been the same, but there is a huge difference. The chief accountant informs that this is common due to the huge volume of the business done by the company during the year. Okay, so they have given the reasoning that due to the huge volume there is a difference. Okay, so we'll go through the answer. Difference between the control account and the subsidiary record. The huge difference between the control control account and the subsidiary record in the books of the OPQ Limited indicates that there has been a material misstatement requiring detailed examination by the auditor to ascertain the cause. See, there is a huge difference, and management has just stated the reason that due to the huge volume of the business. Even though there is a huge volume of business, it raises a question. It raises due to the auditor should have this questioning mind basically. He should always keep the professional practices an attitude of professional practice. He should have a questioning mind. So what it raises a question, what question it raises, that it indicates that there may be material misstatement because of these differences. There may be material misstatement requiring a detailed examination, that there may be material misstatement which requires the detailed examination by the auditor to ascertain the cause. Okay, what is the basically cause of these differences that auditor needs to identify. Okay, then the intention of the chief accountant cannot be accepted simply because the company has done a huge volume of the business. See, even though there is a huge business, but if two accounts, in case we take a journal entry basically, so in control and subsidiary there should be a same amount, but in though if there is a difference, so it indicates that there has been a misstatement of which an auditor has to conduct an examination, as they have given that he is required to conduct the detailed examination, which requires the detailed examination by the auditor to ascertain the cause, and the reason by the chief accountant cannot be accepted. Such a phenomenon indicates that the recording of any transaction is not done properly, or the accounting system fails to capture all the transaction in time. So what does this indicates? The difference that indicates that the recording of any transaction is not being done properly. So whoever is doing this recording is not doing his job properly. He is not doing recording properly, basically means the accounting entry are not being recorded properly and failed to capture all the transaction in time. So at a given point of time, if a person needs to what we can say, ascertain the balance of this accounts, the control account or the subsidiary balance account. So it won't provide a clear picture. So that's what they have given, that given is that such a phenomena indicates, this difference indicates that the recording of any transaction is not done properly. It is not done properly, first of all, and second, accounting system fails to capture all the transaction in time. And accounting system, this whole accounting system fails to capture all the transaction in time. Then however, having regards to all these circumstances, it appears from the fact of the case that these differences indicate the possibility of some kind of material misstatement. Basically this all indicates that there is some material misstatement, there is a possibility of some kind of material misstatement. As a 240, auditor's responsibility to in relation to fraud in an audit of financial statement. When an auditor come across some indication possible misstatement resulting from the entity's procedure, the auditor shall evaluate whether such misstatement is indicative of the fraud. See, this is an indication that there is difference, that there may be some misstatement being involved, the recording is not done properly, the accounting system fails to capture the transaction in time, so this indicates some misstatement. So as per SA 240, what is the responsibility of the auditor? That he should ascertain that whether such misstatement is indicative of the fraud, that whether such misstatement is because of fraud or because of error. So he should consider this possibility that the misstatement is whether it is an indicative of the fraud. We will read it again. When the auditor come across some circumstances indicating the possible misstatement, which is in current case resulting from the entity's procedure, auditor shall evaluate whether the misstatement is indicative of the fraud. Then in the given case, the circumstances indicate the possibility of the misstatement that might be due to the fraud, and accordingly the auditor must investigate further to consider the effect on the financial statement. This is the same point they are repeating again and again. The whole 4 points said the same thing till now. We had read this point, read this same in first point as well, that if he finds some misstatement, he is required to conduct detailed examination of the detailed examination by the auditor is required to ascertain the cause. The same they have given is that accordingly the auditor must investigate further to find the effect. If there is a misstatement, there is a misstatement, but what is the effect on the financial statement, that also needs to be investigated. Then okay, and then we have given a reference of 143.12 and Caro 10, and we are done with the answer. So the conclusion of this answer is, if there is any difference, so there is a possibility of the misstatement which require detailed examination by the auditor to ascertain the cause. What is the effect on the financial statement? Then the contention of the chief accountant cannot be accepted, and it can be clearly seen that the recording of from the recording of any transaction, that it is not being done properly and the accounting system fails to capture the transaction in time. Having regards to all these circumstances, it appears that there is some kind of material misstatement, and as far as if 240, auditor should consider the possibility. Auditor shall evaluate whether the misstatement is indicative of the fraud, and he should also, if it is indicative of the fraud, he should investigate further to consider the effect on the financial statement. And then we have to write reference of 143.12 of Companies Act 2013 and Caro 10 of para 3 10 of Caro 2016. Okay, we're done with that question. Now how much question we are left with? 1, 2, 3. Okay, just 3. Okay, we'll continue. While conducting the statutory audit of ABC Limited, you come across the IOUs amounting to 2 crore rupees, 2 crore as against a cash balance shown in the books of 210 crore. Wait a second. We will read it again. While conducting the statutory audit of ABC, so we are the statutory auditor, we are doing the audit of ABC Limited. You come across the IOUs amounting to, what is this IOU amounting to 2 crore rupees as against the cash balance shown in the books. It's basically some advance. IOU means IOU amounting to 2 crore as against the cash balance shown in the books of accounts as 2.1. You also deserve You also observe that despite having similar high balances throughout the year, small amount of 50,000 was withdrawn from the bank to meet the day-to-day expenses. So there was such a huge amount of 2 crore, despite the small amount of 50,000 were withdrawn from the bank to meet the day-to-day expenses. Wait a second, I will come by what is the meaning of IOU first of all. नहीं पता तो नहीं पता भाई. Expenses. Okay, so answer: auditor's duty in case of suspected fraud, SA 240. Auditor's responsibility in an audit in relating to an audit in the fraud in an audit of the financial statement requires an auditor is responsible for obtaining it. As usual, we have seen that this point is common. This not just this point, we have to first write the objective. What this SS is, that we should obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence that the financial statement as a whole are taken as a whole are free from material misstatement whether caused by error, fraud or error. Okay, for obtaining the reasonable assurance, auditor is responsible for maintaining an attitude of professional skepticism, because for obtaining that reasonable assurance or obtaining an audit evidence, he should have a attitude of questioning mind. That is, he should maintain an attitude of professional skepticism throughout the audit. Auditor should recognize the possibility that the material misstatement due to the fraud could exist. He should have the question in mind. He should have the attitude of professional skepticism. He should recognize the possibility. He should recognize this possibility that there can be that the misstatement due to fraud could exist, that there may be some misstatement which may be as a result of the fraud, that there may be some misstatement due to the fraud may exist. When the auditor come across such circumstances indicating the possible misstatement resulting from the entity's procedure, the auditor shall evaluate whether such a misstatement is indicative of the fraud. So if the auditor finds some misstatement, he should consider that whether the auditor should evaluate whether such misstatement is whether it is indicative of fraud or not. So first of all, he should have attitude of professional skepticism, questioning mind. Then he should also consider the possibility that there may be some misstatement which may be indicative of the that there may be material misstatement due to fraud could have exist. What they have given, that possibility that the material misstatement due to the fraud could exist, that there can be fraud exist in the company. He should have this possibility, recognize this possibility as well. Then when an auditor come across some circumstances indicating the possible misstatement resulting from the entity's procedure, auditor shall evaluate such misstatement in whether such misstatement which he has found out is whether it is such indicative of fraud or not. In the present case, the circumstances indicate the possibility of the fraud, and accordingly the auditor must investigate further to consider the effect on the financial statement. The same wordings we had seen in the previous question. In the present case, if we can see, if related to the question, that this all circumstances indicate that there may be fraud, that there is a possibility of the fraud, and the auditor should investigate further to consider the effect on the financial statement. The guidance note on an audit of the cash and bank balance also mentioned that if an entity is maintaining an unduly large balance of the cash, see the cash balance was 2.1 crore, the date as IOU was 2 crore, he should carry out the surprise verification of the cash. The auditor, what he should do is carry out surprise verification of the cash more frequently to ascertain whether it agrees if the cash in hand is not in agreement with the book balance. Okay, he should do the cash surprise verification of the cash, and if the cash balance in hand, that physical verification, is not in agreement with the book balance, he should seek the explanation. He should ask for the reasons, explanation or reconciliation for the same, and if the same is not satisfactory, the same which has been provided by the management is not satisfactory, he should state his these fact appropriately in his audit report. And what he should do is he should state all this fact that there has been that they have conducted the physical verification and there has been such misstatement found, and he should also state this fact in the audit report. Okay, so we are done with this. This was not some question type some case study type question. It was just given in the question that there has been suspicious activity found, that is the small amount of 50,000 has been withdrawn to meet day-to-day expenses. There is such huge balance of 2.1 crore IOU amounting to 2 crore against the cash balance in the books. Okay, and so they have given general points only, that he should consider the possibility of fraud. If he finds some misstatement, he should see whether it is indicative of the fraud or not, and in this case it is what we can say, it is appearing that it is indicative, it is that there is a possibility of the fraud, and he should investigate further to find out the effect on the financial statement. And at the end they have given the guidance note on the cash and bank balance. Also said that maintaining a huge balance, unduly large balance, if the company is maintaining unduly large balance, then he should carry out the surprise verification, and if there is any disagreement or if there is any mismatch between the physical and the physical cash and the book balance, he should ask for the reason, and if the reason is not satisfactory, he should appropriately report the fact in the audit report. So we are done with the question. Okay, next question. Mrs. Honest Limited has entered into a transaction on 5th March 2019, near year end. So they have entered into Mrs. Honest has entered into a transaction on 5th March near to the year end, whereby it has agreed to pay 5 lakh rupees per month to Mr. Y as the annual retainership fees for engineering consultation. So Mrs. Honest has entered into transaction with Mr. Y, okay, at the end of the year, that is on 5th March 2019, if we say the year 1819, and they have agreed to pay 5 lakh rupees per month to Mr. Y as an annual retainership fees for engineering, for what, that is engineering consultation. No amount has been actually paid, but 60 lakh rupees has been provided in the books of the accounts as on the year 31st March 2019. They have said that they will pay 5 lakh rupees per month. They haven't paid a single penny, but they have provided in the books 60 lakh rupees for the year ended 31st March 2019. Your inquiry elicits a response that the need-based consultation was obtained around the year, but there is no documentary or other evidence of the receipt of the services. So management has provided the explanation that need-based consultation has been obtained, and there is no such documentary evidence of raising of any invoice as such of receipt of the services. There is no such document of that. As an auditor of Mr. Honest, what would be your approach? Okay, so what is the auditor's duty in such a case, based on this what we can say, this case study basically. So auditor's duty in case of the suspected fraud, if there is any suspected fraud, so what is the auditor's duty? SA 240, auditor's responsibility relating to the fraud in an audit of the financial statement can be committed by the management by various means, including therein a recording of any fictitious journal entry, particularly close to the end of the accounting period, to manipulate the operating result or achieve other objective. Okay, SA 240, they have given the name of the essay, the auditor's responsibility in relation to audit in financial or fraud in an audit of financial statement. What this essay says that SA 240 on fraud can be committed by the management by various means, including therein recording of a fictitious journal entry. As we have seen in the first question, that what are the how the fraud basically, not how the fraud can be basically. Let's see what was the question. We will just go through the wordings of that. What are the source, what they have given in, what a possible source of such fraudulent financial reporting. So what was the possible source of fraudulent financial reporting? That recording fictitious journal entry, inappropriate adjusting assumptions, then omitting advancing, delaying the recognition, then concealing fact, not disclosing the fact via concealing, then entering into the complex transaction and altering the records and the terms related to the significant and unusual transaction. Okay, now on which question first of all we were? Okay, this one. So they have given that that as per SA 240, fraud can be committed by the management at various means, including recording of any fictitious journal entry particularly close to the year end to manipulate the operating result or achieve other objective. So this basically this fictitious journal entry would have been accounted just because to manipulate the operating result or to achieve other objective. Okay, in the given case, Honest Limited has entered into any agreement with Mr. Y at the year end for engineering consultation. It has also provided rupees 60 lakh rupees in the books of accounts. However, no documentary or other evidences of any receipts of such services is available. So there is no such documentary evidence of receipt of such services also is available. This is basically they have copy pasted the question. It appears that the company has passed fictitious journal entries near the year end to manipulate the operating result. Basically this all we have to write. In the given case 60 lakh rupees has been booked, no documentary evidence, this has been fictitious journal entries has been passed to manipulate the accounting, manipulate the operating results. So what is the duty basically of statutory auditor? As at 240 further provides that if a result of the misstatement resulting from the fraud or the suspected fraud, so this is basically fraud or the suspected fraud for an auditor, the auditor encountered exceptional circumstances that brings into question the auditor's ability to continue performance of an duty, auditor shall determine. So if he finds some fraud or suspected fraud, what an auditor should do? We had discussed this same concept in an earlier question as well. That he should consider the professional or legal responsibility applicable in the circumstances, including that there is any requirement of an auditor to report to a person who have made an appointment, who made the audit appointment, and in some cases to the regulatory authority. Basically he should report to the person who made the appointment or the regulatory authority. He should report this circumstances of the fraud or suspected fraud in the whole case which we saw. So can be committed by various means, including in first point they have said by giving reference to 240 that fraud can be committed by fictitious journal entry by to manipulate the operating result and achieve the other objective. Then in second point they have given the reference to the question, the whole question. Then in third point simply they have stated that if there is any fraud, so what an auditor should do auditor shall discuss with the person who made the appointment or regulatory authority, or consider the appropriate to withdraw from the engagement where withdrawal of an engagement is legally permitted. What he should do is consider the withdrawal from the engagement where the withdrawal from the engagement is legally permitted, where the withdrawal from the engagement is legally permitted. So further as per 143(12) of the Companies Act, read with Rule 13 of the Companies Act requires that if the auditor of the company in the course of the performance of his duty as an auditor, see again we have given a reference of this 143(12), but this is a little no this is the same basically, but in last what they have given is he shall immediately report the matter to the audit committee within 2 days. Wait a second, we will read this entire. This is a little different from what we have seen till now. As per 104, but it is the same concept basically. 143(12) of the Companies Act, read with Rule 13 of the Companies Audit and Auditors Rule 2016, requires that if an auditor of the company in the course of the performance of his duty as an auditor, so he is as an auditor, what is his duties, has reasons to believe that an offence involving the fraud has been committed against the company by the officer or the employee of the company, he shall immediately report the matter to the audit committee within 2 days of his knowledge. See what we have studied till now, this 143(12), if it is 1 crore or more, then we should report to CG, and if it is, see in the bracket, we should report to audit committee within 2 days of his knowledge. See, as an auditor, if you have came to a knowledge that there is a fraud or a suspicion of the fraud, then within 2 days of his knowledge, if the amount involved is less than 1 crore, then he should report to the audit committee, mentioning what all things we should mention: the nature of the fraud, approximate amount involved. See, in CARO also we have to state the nature and the amount involved in the fraud. In this also same, nature of the fraud with description, approximate amount, and the parties, all the parties involved in the fraud. So 3 things over here: nature along with description. We have to give the nature, and along with that we have to specify the description also. Then amount involved in the fraud. basically it will be less than 1 crore, because we are and we are reporting, and we have to report to, as we are reporting to audit committee. And if it is more than 1 crore, the same thing, the same content, the nature, approximate amount and the parties involved, we will report to CG. Okay, and we have given the reference to this para 3 of Caro as well, that if there is any fraud committed by the company or on the company by its officer or the employee, and if it is yes, the nature and the amount involved is to be indicated. Over here the parties involved, we don't have to state the parties involved basically, but in the earlier one we have to state the parties involved as well. See, in the one question what we have studied is that there was a temming leading and the leading being done by the managing director. So in that we were knowing that the managing director is involved. So, and if that amount is more than 1 crore or less than 1 crore whatsoever, as per 143.12, either to the CG or to the audit committee, we will report the in parties involved, we will state that the managing director is involved basically. Okay, so we are done with this question. What the conclusion is, what they have asked, first of all, that there was some error, that they were recording just 60 lakh rupees as a provision, and there was no such satisfactory evidence involved. So they can do by recording fictitious journal entry and all, then by giving the reference to the case we have written. Then we have written that he should communicate the matter to the if there is any legal or professional responsibility to do so, the report to the person who made the appointment or the regulatory authority, and consider whether it is appropriate to withdraw from the engagement, and we have withdraw from the engagement as well. Consider these possibilities, and he should, as per 143.12, if the amount is less than 1 crore, as it is less than 1 crore, not if it is less than 1 crore. In this question it is less than 1 crore because it is 60 lakh rupees. So we will report to audit committee within 2 days of its knowledge, that is its of auditor's knowledge, coming to its knowledge that the fraud is committed or with suspicious of the suspected fraud, and we have given the reference to para 3 as well. We'll move on to a last question. Is it appropriate, how much time, 40 minutes have already been passed. Is it appropriate for the auditor to make the inquiries of the management regarding the management own assessment of the risk of the fraud and the control in place to prevent and detect it? What they have given is it appropriate for the auditor to make the inquiries of the management regarding the management own assessment of the risk of the fraud and control in place to prevent and detect it? Discuss. Okay, so this what management basically does from time to time is they should take into account, they should do their assessment that whether some fraudulent activity is being committed in the company or not, whether the internal controls set by the management or set in the company are appropriate and there is no fraud being committed in the company. So the management do their own assessment. So what they have given is the auditor make the inquiry to the management regarding the management own assessment. So they are questioning the management assessment, that whether that assessment of fraud, the risk of the fraud, that assessment of the management and the control is in place to prevent and detect it. Okay, so we will discuss, they have said to discuss appropriateness. So auditor is basically checking the appropriateness of the inquiries of the management regarding the assessment of fraud. See, what management would have also done, that they had made the inquiries to the employees or to whatever concerned person or the department, and that they would have also done their job of the assessment, that inquiries, that whether the fraud is being committed or not. So they are reviewing, as an auditor they are checking the appropriateness of making the inquiries of management, regarding the assessment of the fraud. Okay, you got what the heading is given. Basically appropriateness, we are checking as an auditor appropriateness of the making inquiries of the management regarding the assessment of fraud. Sorry, SA 240, auditor responsibility in relation to audit relating to the fraud in an audit of financial statement requires an auditor to make inquiry of management regarding first, management assessment of risk of material misstatement due to fraud. So it is our responsibility to make the inquiry to the management. So we will what we will do, we will to ask management that whether the management assessment of risk, what we will ask inquiries to management regarding first inquiry that management assessment of risk of material misstatement due to fraud. Second, management process of how the management what is the process of the management of for the identification and responding to the risk of the fraud in an entity. If for instance, if an audit management has if for instance if any fraud has been came to the knowledge of the audit of the management, how the management basically deals with that, deals with the risk of the fraud in an entity, including any specific risk of fraud. So if there is any specific risk affecting specific account balance or transaction in the financial statement, okay, so first they are given that we should inquiry as to the management regarding the management assessment of the risk of material misstatement. We will first assess the management assessment of risk of material misstatement. Second, we will see that the management, how the management, what is the management process of identifying and responding to the risk of the fraud in an entity, risk in a fraud in an entity, and including the specific risk of fraud, management communication if any to TCWG, whether in such a process what all are the management communication to the TCWG if any, and the management communication if any to the employees regarding its view on the business practices and ethical behavior. So what is the management communication to TCWG that they will what we can say, inquiry to the management, that what they have communicated to management, what they have communicated to the employee regarding its view on the business practices, that how the business should be conducted, how the business practice should be, and the ethical behavior. The management is okay. So this auditor will basically take into account or will inquire to the management these 4 points which they are given. First point was that they will assess that the management assessment of risk of material misstatement, management process of identifying and responding to the risk of fraud, including the specific risk of fraud. Then management communication to TCWG, management communication to the employee regarding its view, behavior, and ethical ethical behavior, business practice and ethical behavior. The management is responsible for the entity's internal control and for the preparation of the financial statement. See, basically auditor is auditing the financial statement prepared by the management, but management is the one who is responsible for the entity's internal control. First of all, there should be a strong internal control, so he is responsible for the internal control and for the preparation of the financial statement. Accordingly, it is appropriate for the auditor to make the inquiries of the management regarding the management own assessment. So they have asked the question that whether it is appropriate of auditor ascertaining, that is auditors making inquiry of the management regarding the management own assessment of risk. So yeah, they can so what they are given is management is responsible for the internal control and the preparation of the financial statement. Accordingly, it is appropriate for the management, appropriate for the auditor to make the inquiries. So they will make the inquiries to the manager of the management regarding the management own assessment of the risk of the fraud and the risk of the fraud and the control in place to prevent and detect it. The nature and the extent and the frequency of the management assessment of such an risk and control may vary from entity to entity. So the nature, what is the nature, extent and frequency, how frequent they conduct the management assessment, how frequent management assess the risk of fraud, may differ from entity to entity. In some entity, management may make detailed assessment on its annual basis or some continue or as a part of a continuous monitoring. In other entity, management make less structured and less frequent. In some, there is annual and continuous monitoring is there, and in some entity there may be in some entity management assessment may be less structured, not a proper structured manner, less structured, and it is less frequent as well, not conducted on continuous basis. The nature and the extent of the frequency of the management assessment are relevant to the auditor's understanding of the entity's control environment. So this all is relevant for understanding of the entity's environment. See, what they have given is nature, extent and the frequency of management assessment of the entity, management assessment of the relevant of the management assessment, the nature, extent and frequency of the management assessment. These all things are relevant to the auditor's understanding of the entity. This all thing is relevant to auditor understanding of the entity's control environment. For example, the fact that the management has not made the assessment of the risk of fraud may in some circumstances be indicative of the lack of importance that the management place on the internal control. We will read this again. Wait a second, last point, and then we are done. The nature, extent and this is important. It is relevant for the auditor to understand the entity's control environment. So for understanding the control environment, this assessment of the management own assessment is important. The nature, extent and frequency is important. For example, the fact that the management has not made the assessment of the risk of the fraud may in some circumstances be indicative of the lack of importance that the management places on the internal control. And if in some entity, if the management do not assess the risk of the fraud, so it clearly indicates that management is less, what we can say, that they are giving less importance, that there is lack of importance that the management is giving on the internal control. Means they are not giving importance to the internal control, so there won't be a proper internal control, so there will be an chances of the fraud taking place in an entity. Okay, so by this we are done with this essay 240. We'll continue essay 250 in our next video. Okay, thank you.